Welcome to Commando on Demand, your fast-paced weekly update straight from Kim's desk to your ears. I'm Mike James, and in just a bit, he's back. Craig Jackson, the founder and CEO of Barrett-Jackson, the largest automobile auction in the world. They have several around the country every year. Usually, almost 2,000 cars, over 1 million square feet, over 350 sponsors and exhibitors, and over 100 food vendors. Well, that was then. This is now. Of course, we're going through the COVID-19 thing, and they can't have anywhere near that, so they're switching their business to an online platform. Craig is going to talk to us about exactly how they're doing that, and with that many people watching, how's it going to go? We're also going to talk to, it's a little bit of a theme here today, switching your business into COVID-19 mode. We have a successful baker in California. He has 2 locations. Of course, he's mostly did wholesale, but now that this has happened and the restaurants that he serviced are basically closed, he actually switched to a retail model and is successfully sending baking kits out to his new customers, and he's doing like $100,000 a day in sales. It's a fascinating story. We'll talk to Aaron Cadell. He is the owner-manager of Mr. Holmes Bakehouse in California. Like I said, there's 2 locations. Talk to him about exactly how he did that and much more. And by the way, this is not the Kim Commando Show. Every week, Kim gives you the very latest tech news, tips, DIYs, and we take your questions on the Kim Commando Show. For that podcast, go to getkim.com and use promo code Kim to get a free 30-day trial right now. Again, that's getkim.com, and you can listen to the podcast on your schedule, come behind the scenes, and watch as we record the show on Friday at noon Pacific time, 3 p.m. Eastern Time. It's a lot of fun. Again, getkim.com, promo code Kim for the 30-day free trial. All right, let's get started in just a few moments with Craig Jackson on Commando on Demand Insider.
Come with me to a place that car lovers dream about. Name your favorite car or the one that you always wanted, and it's right there for you. But it's not just that car. It's really any car. Makes and models from years past, all the way to concept cars of the future. And you can put a figure in your head for how much that car is worth. And as it's auctioned off live, you have the chance to buy it. You can take it home. You see, for nearly 50 years, enthusiasts from all over the world have flocked to the Barrett-Jackson collector car auctions. It's a phenomenal feat, you have to see it, of organization, technology. And every time I go to an auction, I'm always impressed about the teamwork, the extraordinary efforts that it must take to pull something like this off, and with such grace. It's the world's greatest car collector auctions. You can go to them in Scottsdale, Arizona, Palm Beach, Florida, the Mohegan Sun in Connecticut, and Las Vegas, Nevada. Now, here's the deal. Over 500,000 people are in attendance at all 4 auctions. But you know what happened? COVID-19, the global pandemic hit, and businesses have had to pivot. And it's not possible to have crowds of people at a world-class car auction right now. And joining us is Craig Jackson, the chairman and chief executive of Barrett-Jackson. And Craig, thanks so much for joining us. And with in-person events canceled, the number of online auctions have jumped. I saw a number like 63% over the past month alone. But taking the Barrett-Jackson car auction online, it kind of goes back to your roots, doesn't it?
It does, and thank you very much for that intro. We started online auctions. We wrote our own app back in '95 and put the entire catalog online with internet bidding. Wrote that in Java a long time ago.
Wow.
And we stopped using, we did that internally. And then we migrated that into a concept called eClassics, and we launched that in 2000. And that was tied to a television show on Speed Vision, and we previewed the cars on TV. Then you went to the internet to bid on them. The downfalls in that was the amount of bandwidth, people used to using technology of how do I upload photos, how do I upload videos. With the advent of the cell phone and much better bandwidth nowadays, and people being a lot more comfortable with what you're looking at online. Now, what we've done in the interim, which was also one of the problems back then, is how we inspect the cars.
Right.
We've really hired a team of what I think are the industry's best experts that we use at our live auctions. It's offered up some new interesting challenges, being that we're all social distancing right now. So we are sending pictures and videos and Zoom and team meetings and sharing and collaborating while we're all in different locations. But I think we're going to pull off what is going to be a spectacular online auction and giving people the comfort of how many pictures and videos. And also we're going to do some live answering questions on Facebook of people that have questions about the cars, and then do a show the next day that we answer those with our experts. So the goal is to really take our expertise, what we've learned from doing this over time at our live auctions, which at our live auctions, you can internet bid, you can phone bid, and we're using our partner Proxy Bid to help us with this. We stopped doing it all in-house just because of having their whole back end makes it so fast. Sure. So we're not relying on the last mile. They've got dark fiber. They've connected to multiple servers around the planet. So the latency is milliseconds. So using their technology, we are going to do this, but a hybrid type auction where it's a static timed auction with live updates and then a live promo show the days that the cars go online. We're going to do that through our website and on YouTube. We're trying to really bring people in to give them a comfort level while trying to respect social distancing and not having everybody together, which is
and the video conferencing. I mean, that's been a godsend for everybody. I mean, right now I'm talking to you from my home studio, whereas before I'd be in this big palatial place, right? But now it's like we're all trying to pivot and keep our businesses going. And it's interesting, though, that you've been able to pull all this together in really short order, huh?
We have. And, if we hadn't built a lot of this infrastructure or the new website we were building, we were planning on doing this anyhow. So we had a lot of the building blocks, but the new website's not quite done. So we still had to go back and adapt the old website to adapt to this. But having the expertise and working remotely through a lot of our experts throughout time, because they can't always, when we're consigning cars to the live auction, we have a portal. So the portal was already built for them to go in and look at the cars. Then we've always been asking customers ahead of time to supply more pictures or more documentation that they're vetting the cars until they physically get to the site. And it allows us to weed out a lot of the issues ahead of time. Now I'm glad we built all that infrastructure and expertise to be able to do this in a virtual setting. And it's going to be interesting as to how people respond to all this.
Now, let me ask you a question, Craig. When you go to a Barrett-Jackson car auction, there's this amazing energy in the air. It's like, I guess it's called auction fever, this adrenaline spike. You're packed into a room, you're surrounded by your families and friends. And I always love that when somebody buys a car, everybody claps for that person. They're like, yes, you bought that car. It's amazing. Now, how do you translate that to an online auction?
Well, I think there's going to be a building block. So this one we're doing on a time basis. The next one we are going to do more of a live auctioning the cars off at the end. Because of us still being in lockdown here and all my auctioneers and everybody else around the country, we couldn't do it. We're hoping the next one will have a hybrid doing that, but not having all the bidders in the room, but still having the auction energy. And it's going to be, we're going to have to walk before we run again, and before we pack that many people in a room. It may be the next live auction is just for bidders and consigners only and not general public, and social distancing, and still doing a lot online for those that aren't comfortable until there's a vaccine and everybody feels comfortable getting back together again. So we're going to have to do it in steps. We're not alone. Every sports
That's true.
Every live event, every concert promoter, and we're looking at what everybody else is doing for best practices for when those days come as we start rolling out towards them.
So how many cars are you going to have? And I know you have one great car. I think it's a 1966 Corvette. Is that right? Okay, that's my car. But aside from my car, what other cars do you have?
Well, we have two Boss 429 Mustangs, one a candy apple red one, fully restored, one of the first 150 cars, and then we have a 1970 that is a barn find car that is all original. So that car is going to be quite something. To your point, you have a resto mod, and we have some fantastic resto mods, 63 Corvette, your 66 Corvette. So across the board, a lot of these cars that are fun to take out and drive, that is sort of the theme. But we have some great blue chip muscle cars. Something that came up that the press release just came out today is we're also selling a charity cars. At every live Barrett-Jackson, we sell cars for charity. Richard Childress reached out to us. He's been watching what's going on. He's been selling a bunch of his automobilia on eBay, and he reached out to us to sell a very special car, one of the original Dale Earnhardt Sr. NASCARs coming out of his personal collection. He's never sold one out of his personal collection before. This is a number 3 Dale Earnhardt Sr. car, winning car. And that is going to go to two charities, one to support the food banks and one to support the first responders that are on the front lines. And that will be selling on the 16th. That one we're probably going to do a bit of a hybrid. That one we're going to go live with previews and really work together with YouTube and our partners to try to bring as much exposure to that car, and that'll lead into the rest of the timed auction that's going to be happening on Saturday the 16th, but you can start bidding on it the 8th. We launch all these cars starting on the 8th and the 9th, and we end them on the 15th, 16th, and then we end our automobilia. We're selling 250 pieces of authentic automobilia at no reserve. That auction is on Sunday. It closes. So there's a lot of really cool stuff. People just need to register to bid, and they can start really going through all the stuff. And it'll be an exciting thing as much as we can make it while we're all at home. So like Saturday Night Live, the NFL draft, everybody, we're having to improvise right now, and then we'll slowly start bringing it more live again with people as we go on.
I'll tell you, I've always been impressed on how philanthropic you are. I mean, with the auction, I read somewhere that you raised over $118 million since the first car auction, and then at the 2019 Scottsdale auction alone, it was close to $10 million, which is very, very impressive. Thank you for doing all that.
Well, it's our pleasure. We started as a charity fundraiser, as a car show. Charity's been a big part of it. We don't take any fees when we sell these cars. And we're up to $126 million after the Scottsdale auction. In the total, I think that's why this special car at this special time in our history and the world, we felt like we couldn't sit back without helping. And I thank Mr. Childress for his generosity to donate something that means a lot to him. But there's a lot of people hurting out there. We need to help them.
Well, Craig, thank you again for joining us. And the web address is Barrett-Jackson.com. Register now, and then you can bid online. Thanks, Craig.
Thank you very much, Kim. I appreciate it. Good luck with your car.
Thank you.
Commando listeners know technology moves so fast it's almost impossible to keep up with everything that's going on. And that's why there's Commando On Demand Insider. It's our way of keeping you informed and on the cutting edge of technology. Our next guest is Aaron Cadell. Now, he took his Los Angeles, California Mr. Holmes Bakehouse from a successful wholesale operation selling to restaurants to a retail operation selling online. We're going to find out. It's an amazing story how he did that. He's very successful, making $100,000 a day in sales right now. Next on Commando On Demand Insider.
This episode is brought to you by Kia's first 3-row, all-electric SUV, the Kia EV9, with available all-wheel drive and seating for up to 7 adults, with 0 to 60 speed that thrills you 1 minute and available lounge seats that unwind you the next. Visit kia.com/EV9 to learn more. Ask your Kia dealer for availability. No system, no matter how advanced, can compensate for all driver error and or driving conditions. Always drive safely.
I don't know about you, but I've been baking a lot of bread lately. I don't know why. There's something comforting about the smell of bread going all throughout the house. This morning, I made New York rye bread, and my mother was so thrilled. She's like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. You know, baking bread is a 14,000-year-old craft. And if you look at Google Trends during this pandemic, everybody's searching for stimulus check, unemployment, vaccine, but the number of people searching for bread hit an all-time high. And it makes sense because we're all at home to slow the spread of COVID-19. And what do you do when you're at home? Okay, you're working, you're playing with the kids, you're doing homeschooling. But baking bread at home works best because there's a lot that you have to do to bake bread. You just can't put it in the bread machine and walk away. Well, I guess you could do that. Well, joining me is Aaron Cadell. He's the founder and CEO of Mr. Holmes Bakehouse. And here's the deal. He's just not some little baker in his back basement. No, this is a big company. He's got locations in San Francisco and Los Angeles, and he generally would provide bread for, say, all the restaurants and cafes. But in a span of 72 hours, all of a sudden, $3 million worth of business, 60 wholesale customers vanished. That's it. They're gone. But what Aaron did is amazing, and that's why I'm so thrilled to have Aaron with us, because like many businesses, he had to pivot his business in order to stay in business. And now Aaron's aiming to make $100,000 a day. So, Aaron, first of all, thanks for joining us. But what was it like knowing that your business was on the brink of disaster?
Yeah, it's just everything happened so fast. So I think maybe rather than just entering into a woe is me type of place, or hey, bro, let's check these feelings out. You kind of just go straight into action mode, and figuring out, how are we going to make it through this thing, which doesn't seem to be a 2-week process. So I guess that's at the start.
I think that was me too, because you're like, whoa, what just happened here? If anybody would have told us, Aaron, back in January that we would be talking about staying at home with a global pandemic, I don't know about you, but I'd be like, I think you're nuts. Where would that even happen? It would never happen in the United States. But here we are with our businesses. So what happened
Absolutely.
with your plan? How did you put this plan together?
Yeah, I mean, look, as soon as all of our wholesale accounts kind of stopped and we realized, oh, wow, we're going to have to shut down our retail in addition to all of that, within such a short amount of time, we just kind of went straight to the whiteboard, stayed up super late, and we're like, how do we, find an insurance policy against really the market and everything that's going on. And the way that we kind of went about that was starting to look at, the needs that we were kind of feeling ourselves, like walking into a grocery store and just seeing all of these aspects that aren't there, whether it's perishable goods to breads and canned and whatever else that it might be, things that we don't necessarily do. But, it was just kind of a scary thing, a stark, oh, wow, this is a reality we've never kind of seen before. So the first aspect was just we need to kind of address the survival concerns that people have and give them a regenerative, bread starter that they're going to be able to use for the rest of their life and survive this pandemic as well as the next ones to come that might just ease in concerns there. And then I think that second thing is just folks are home and bored, I might be a little bit less concerned about the walls crashing down around me, than other people might be. And maybe that's just because I'm a millennial, but I think that the other component is just when you're at home, you kind of got your bucket list that you're starting to go through where you, whether it's exercise routines or things that you don't typically make time for. And a lot of those folks, as you kind of pointed to with, the Google search Google searches going on is like folks just want to learn how to make bread. People have taken a deep interest in the inner workings of maybe crafts that we take advantage of, and whether it's pasta making or whatever it might be.
So Aaron, you mentioned something that I had never heard of before I read about you, the regenerative bread starter. What exactly is that?
Yeah, so bread is you make it with yeast, right? Yeast is it's a fungus it's a very natural component that you just find out in the wild. You can do a wild fermented bread if you'd like, or whatever else. But yeast, just like beer, it's something that's out there in the wild, right? And so part of that is like it does have a habitat that's fairly flexible, and you're basically able to continue feeding that yeast to where it stays happy, right? And so when we send somebody a bread starter, more or less like what you need to do is you need to feed it with flour and water, so that it can continue surviving. And as long as you do that, it's going to continue being healthy, being happy, if you will.
And a happy yeast is a good yeast.
It's a good yeast. Yeah, it's a strong yeast, and things like a sourdough starter, for instance, that's when, just as like with Brettanomyces beer, it's the same type of, or Brettanomyces yeast that people make beer with, is the same type of process where if you leave it out on the counter for long enough, it's going to start to go sour, right? Where you start to have that acetic acid, and it becomes a stronger yeast as those, as that yeast is kind of breaking down a lot of that gluten and consuming it. And so in the same exact way, that thing, it will last you forever. And then at that point, you as a home baker now, you're just able to feed it for the rest of your life, and that thing's going to continue making bread for you at home without the need for perishable goods. So it's a pretty cool concept. And again, as you said, it's an ancient one.
It is a very cool concept. Okay, so you have all these suppliers. You've got pallets of yeast and flour, I assume, in your facilities, right? Yep. And now you have to go from selling to wholesalers. Now you're going to sell to consumers.
Yep.
There's a lot of work involved. You've got to design the packaging, the instructions. You need to have customer service lines, and you need to be able to sell online. How long did it take you to put all of that together?
Well, I mean, we threw everything up within 24 hours as far as the site goes, and starting to deal with our initial problems that we just solved one by one. And it's still something that, like, look, e-commerce businesses I have so much respect for, especially now after just now getting into this. But that's been a huge learning curve for us that we've had to do in a very short amount of time, is just learning of all the ways that we can streamline our processes. Like we have great operational systems and a great kitchen for us to kind of put all these things in play with, but us not being an e-commerce company and making that transition, it definitely had to be a quick process.
What were some lessons that you learned?
Even the most simple instructions that are in our kits, people, are going to need to be handheld through. And for anybody that's starting an e-commerce business, I would say that all of my friends have really been able to speak to that, to be like, yes, that is 100% the case, that you could spell it out very clearly, add in a half cup of flour into that starter in these increments, and they're still going to have questions about it. And like our job, I think, as a company is just make sure that we like ease a lot of those basal concerns to where like people feel super comfortable about it, whether it's like with video instructions to, refining a lot of the written ones as well, to where people just are like, all right, I'm comfortable with this purchase. And I also I feel confident that man, I'm going to be able to make this starter last the rest of my life. But that far and away has been like the biggest thing that we have been working on and continue to do.
Don't forget, if you have a question about something digital for Kim, you can get her unbiased and trusted advice. Just go to commando.com and in the upper right-hand corner, click on Be a Caller. Now, we'll get a couple of details about your question, and then Manny will call and schedule you for a time on the Kim Komando Show to ask your question directly to Kim. It's a lot of fun, and we'll hope you do it. Again, that's commando.com, and in the upper right, Be a Caller. All right, coming up, more of our conversation with Aaron Cadell, the super successful owner of Mr. Holmes Bakehouse in California. Next on Commando on Demand Insider.
So when we start talking about e-commerce, we're always talking about the upsell, right? Somebody puts one thing in their cart and we say, okay, here are 3 or 4 or 5 other things that you might want. So if you're selling a product that will last the rest of their lives, what's the next product you hope that they'll buy from you?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So, I mean, this actually started a bit more organically, like something that, like it wasn't necessarily done for an upsell, but it's happening to do that, is every single person who's purchasing, they're getting on our email subscription list. And with that, we're just sending them new recipes all of the time, right? And so, like, things that people may have not thought of to do beforehand, before they got into this starter world, is like, change your pancakes into being a sourdough pancake, doing, sourdough cinnamon rolls and whatever else. And I think within a lot of that, we also kind of start teasing out a number of these other things, a number of these other kits that we're starting to sell as well, such as like our pasta kit, our chocolate chip cookies. Like, this isn't a lot. There are a number of other companies that have been doing, kits now during this period. One thing that's been really fun for us is that we're not just like, hey, chef in the kitchen, and they make a recipe. Here it is on, recipes.com or something. But no, this is what we've been doing as a company for a while, and we are now giving you all of our secrets as a company, selling them to you, and to where hopefully they're going to stay in your family cookbook for a while. So I think there's something sentimental about that, and to where people have, like, the number of repeat purchases that we've had from our customers has been nuts, because they've either really enjoyed the experience or they start seeing some gooey picture on our Instagram or something, and they're like, all right, now I want to learn this new aspect of like the kitchen that we can bring to the daily brunch party on Saturdays.
Well, it's a fabulous product, and your marketing is really spot on, I can tell you that. When we talk about e-commerce, a lot of people think, well, if I build it, that they'll just come. Yeah, I mean, I take the calls on the show all the time. Like, I have this great thing and I'm going to sell it. And, if I just can, buy some Google ads or talk about it on Facebook, I'm going to be a multimillionaire. And I'm always like, not so much. It doesn't quite work that way. But you did have a healthy following on Instagram. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, we've been in business for a little bit, and, folks have really gotten behind our product, our brand, and followed us pretty closely. It's been, that's been a very rewarding aspect of being an entrepreneur. Is like, I think that's why a lot of people get into it, especially with like something where there is a tangible product. Is like, there are people that they come in and they have an experience that they are excited about. And as you watch somebody eat, your donut, or they post a review about something, or, like they buy one of these kits and then they share online about how they made it and how stoked they are that their bread turned out the way that it did. I think there's something that's deeply rewarding about that. So, I don't know, we've been able to build a great following, like, over the past, few years, and that's allowed this to be a seamless transition. But yeah, again, for people that are getting into e-commerce, something that, like, far and away, we are not the experienced, folks on it. I think what we're trying to substantiate now is, like, for people that haven't come into our stores, that are just going onto the site for the first time and seeing that their friends are posting about it, how do we build that trust with the customer on that experience end? And the biggest, the most obvious way that goes about is, I think, is like, it's not just about, like, okay, throw up some testimonials, or here's our Trustpilot reviews and things like that, but showing people a bit about who we are as a company, right? I mean, like, our brick and mortar spaces, sharing a little bit about our story, talking about, like, what it is they're actually getting, and easing a lot of the concerns that might be around, if I make this purchase, if I give this company my credit card, what am I getting after that? Am I going to get the package on time? Are these guys going to send me something that I'm going to be like, yeah, this was a great purchase and gave me an experience and I'm stoked about it and I want to buy again. So I think that's what our obsession is about right now. We're taking our obsession from the customer experience from a retail perspective, or for our wholesale accounts, and now we're putting that into, now we're never even going to shake hands or even see you in person ever, because you purchased this product from New Hampshire. Yeah, and we want you to also walk away feeling like I just walked into a new reality, just like Disneyland or something, where the whole thing makes sense. It's so special, and this product that I'm opening up, and I see it on my doorstep, is a gorgeous package. I now feel like this, a real experience as as a customer that brings some meaning to a menial component in my life.
So I want to get back to the e-commerce just a second, because so many people are now trying to figure out what's next for them, right? And I spoke to a woman who was really into futures and trends, and she's like, this whole gig economy thing is going to just explode because people won't be able to go back to that job that they had before. And they're going to try to figure out something that they can do. And Google searches for how to build my own website or how to build my own online retail store are also up. And so maybe there are some folks who are listening right now. Which platform did you decide on and why?
This is really rough because I would have to throw people under the bus in order for me to give a really accurate description. But our POS system did give an opportunity for, I guess, did make a pretty easy path for us to be like, great, we're going to throw up a site immediately. And then we find out it doesn't integrate very well to the customer service platform that we're trying to use. We find out that our shipping platform doesn't integrate perfectly with it, that, there's a bunch of bugs within the system that, it's too simplified. The design on it, we're not able to customize to the way that we want. So I think on that front, right now, we're like, okay, we probably are now, what we're building is going to be on WordPress. We played around with Shopify to see if that would meet our needs, and it looks like a much better improvement from where we're currently at. But WordPress does seem to be the takeaway winner for search engine optimization, as you were mentioning, for customized integrations into each of these things as we're continuing to build and scale this thing from ground zero a month ago, and so I think that's where we've kind of landed, but Shopify seems to be doing a great job as well with a lot of those quick and dirty. Anybody can kind of throw a site together and be able to pop something online with, and then it's just their job to be able to create that value proposition for the customer.
You know what? I'll tell you, WordPress is fabulous. It really is. My whole website, all of the subscription-based components, it's all done on WordPress. And so, and it's easy because there's a lot of people that are qualified to work on it, but there's also all these free templates, and there's all these free plugins, and there's a lot of tutorials. And it's not like if you were to choose, say, something like Ruby on Rails that nobody really knows, you're like, what was that? Did you just say? And then it's
exactly.
But if you say WordPress, oh yeah, I get WordPress. I get all that. So as restaurants start to reopen and you get your wholesale customers back, what happens then?
I think now we're in we further diversify as a company. We are omni-channel, right? And being able to take Mr. Holmes Kits.com and integrate that into Mr. Holmes Bakehouse is something that, I think is going to be a pretty cool way for us to now actually increase our customer experience, right? Where we can continue being part of people's, not just I think monthly routines and things that they passion projects and things that they have, but now holidays opens up for us, we find a way to become part of customers, most valuable. I say the word a lot, but I think those rituals. And that's something that I think is defining of millennials as a whole, and this new e-commerce generation, or not even just generation, but just this new e-commerce economy is the world has changed over the past 20 years, right? I mean, I had the idea that I just need to follow the steps. I just get a college degree, and then thereafter, I buy a house, I purchase a car, and all of these things work out with this job that I'm going to have for the next 20 years. And the landscape has changed dramatically, but it's created something that's really beautiful that I think textbooks are going to talk about for the next 100 years. And it's this renaissance that we're calling craft that I would phrase as the midlife crisis of Western civilization. Craft is this thing where when we weren't able to attain the things that we thought that we might have been able to before, with a house and whatever else, we kind of turned that attention toward these menial components of our lives. Like rather than purchasing a car, we found a lot of meaning within Britannomyces beer and single origin coffee and, I don't know, like Japanese salvage denim. Like those components, there's something really beautiful about that. And people that are really excited to kind of explore a lot of that craft that people have devoted their vocations to now. And so that's what I've been doing my whole life. And now going into e-commerce, it kind of just creates like a new dimension to that, which I think is pretty special.
See, but you're a successful entrepreneur. You are. When one door closes, we're going to figure out how to open 3 or 4 more, right? We're going to keep throwing stuff on the wall until it feels right, until it's something that we know that is going to be good for everybody. Because when you're doing good, good comes back. And I thoroughly agree with you, Aaron, that over the last 30 to 60 days, there has been a fundamental shift. Not just like you said, 20 years ago, I'm going to get the college degree and then I get the house, the car, the 2 kids and the 3 dogs and the chickens and whatever else that I want to throw in.
Right.
But I think over the last 30, 60 days, I think we're going to see a fundamental shift where people are so work driven, right? Goal oriented. You're in Los Angeles. I mean, last time I was in LA, I went to the Rooftop restaurant in Beverly Hills. And
yep.
I just looked at the people there and I thought, oh my gosh, I have never seen a group of more phony plastic people in my entire life. I mean, there were 2 women there in their 30s and obviously they really couldn't afford to be there, right? I mean, you can just tell they just don't
Sure.
fit in. And they're ordering glasses of water because the cocktail there is I think I ordered a glass of wine. I think it was $18, something like that. And I'm like, that's the house wine is $18 a glass? You've got to be kidding me.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Okay. And then this big old fat guy comes in and buys them drinks. And I'm like, but those days are gone, and so it's going to be,
perhaps.
I mean, I hope so. But it's going to be interesting to see how all this comes out and how we emerge from this. I think, I really think we will emerge a better society.
Yeah, perhaps. I mean, like it does. This also kind of draws a little bit of a line in the sand. There are people that just respond to things differently, right? And like there are people that are like, all right, let's draw the cause right now. This spells out opportunity and time where I'm going to get on the horse and like drive in, like right into the sunset. And then there's folks where it's like, this is a global evil that we just kind of need to accept. And I'm going to stay at home, whatever else that it might be. And just, there's going to, whatever. The government's going to bail me out, whatever else that it might be. But as of right now, I think there is a massive amount of opportunity out there for those that are excited about going out and getting it. And that's like, I think our perspective at this time as a company.
So Aaron, tell us how we can order all your great stuff.
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I'm appreciative that you asked it. MrHolmesKits.com. That's Holmes like Sherlock Holmes. And the kits, there's just 4 of them up there on the website right now. We're working on another 3 at the moment. Another one should be launching tomorrow. We're really excited about, but just ship to your doorstep, COVID safe packaging, all of our team on site. It's just keeping a small business afloat as we continue to try and grow to the next level through, a new channel of business for us.
Aaron, you're fabulous. Keep us posted on your progress, okay?
Yeah, really appreciate it. And thanks so much for having me on your show.
Well, thank you so much for listening to Commando on Demand Insider. Special thanks to Craig Jackson and Aaron Cadell, our special guests today. And thanks to you for listening. And if you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe so you get these automatically downloaded to your device every single week. And we'll see you next time on Commando on Demand Insider.
Every year, one thing is always predictable. Postage costs go up. Stamps.com gives you crazy discounts of up to 89% off USPS and UPS services, so your business will barely notice the change. Stamps.com has been indispensable for over 1 million businesses just like yours. It's like your own personal post office. No lines, no traffic, no waiting. Sign up with promo code PROGRAM for a 4-week trial plus free postage and a free digital scale. No long-term commitments or contracts. That's Stamps.com, code PROGRAM.